Hi folks, this one is Legend of Korra, Season 4, Episode 3, The Coronation. Lol, get it? Cause Kuvira gets compared to Korra and is making her own nation? Yeah, okay. Anyway, there's really two main things going on plot-wise in this one. There's the Kuvira stuff and there's the Korra TOPH stuff. So, since I brought it up, let's start with the Kuvira stuff. Kuvira is shaping up to be a really interesting villain. I'm really enjoying her. I've talked before about some of the kind of imperialist stuff she's been doing. The Earth Empire, now it's a good term for it. It's honestly a better term for it than Kingdom, because what we saw in past series, like in Avatar The Last Airbender, in previous seasons of this show, is that the Earth Kingdom really functions more like an empire. It's a very diverse bunch of small nations, which may or may not be nation states in their own right, but I mean, Zaofu seems to have its own government, even prior to the fall of the Earth Queen last season. Omashu had its own government, so on and so forth. So it seems like a bunch of these smaller nations that are all kind of controlled from a distance by this one vastly powerful city-state. Very much a similar model to the Roman Empire. So Earth Empire, it's a good term for it, but it's also got some nasty connotations, because of course what an empire does is control and exploit the other nations under its control. It, conquers them by a combination of military advancement, economic pressure, nasty little bargains where, you agree to let them come in and help you defend yourself against your neighbors, and before you know it, they're controlling everything you do because you depend on them. That kind of stuff. That's how an empire expands, and that's definitely what we saw Kuvira doing a couple episodes ago. So, Earth Empire is a very good name for this state that she's creating. It's very interesting, too, that she's definitely got a fascist streak going on. The way she talks about her people. One of the key ideas behind fascism is this notion that there is the people, a collective kind of will of the people, a Zeitgeist, if you will, and that it can be focused and expressed through a single leader whose authority then is not that coming from themselves, but the idea is that the people want a strong central ruler who will tell them what to do. And as we see in this episode, the sad thing is, very often a lot of people do want that. And what causes people to want that is fear. Fear of their own choices, fear of making the wrong choice. When people are afraid of the consequences of their choices, they like giving up those choices. And the result is this kind of authoritarian ruler that we're seeing forming in Kuvira. She's kind of a scary individual, which I like. I like that we've had some really diverse villains in this series. I feel like Unalaq and, whatever the Dark Spirit was named, I can't even remember, Rava's evil counterpart. I feel like they were kind of weak as villains. They weren't very interesting because they were basically evil for the sake of being evil. Whereas, Amon, I think, did believe to an extent in his cause. I mean, obviously he was hiding the fact that he himself was a bender, but at the same time, I think he also did believe, because of his childhood, that bending and benders were dangerous, and would oppress the masses. Apparently there's some interview or something where the creators of the show talk about how the reason that there's a president in Season 2 rather than continuing to be this council of benders, basically, is that some reforms were made to address equalist concerns, which would have been really nice to see on screen, because I feel like the equalists had some really legitimate concerns, regardless of whether Amon was sincere or not. And then you've got Zahir, who is, I mean, his methods are rather suspect, but at the same time, these nation-states, the four realms in Republic City, perpetuate themselves through violence. So is it that wrong to oppose them with violence? I don't know. I mean, maybe. Do two wrongs make a right? I don't know. Is there any other way? I don't know. Either way, he is right that a lot of the problems in the Avatar world come from the conflict between the four nations and the fact that there are these four nations. Which then brings us to Kuvira, who exploits this kind of conflict. It's another one of those things about fascism, is that it requires an enemy to function. You know, you have an internal enemy, you know, the dangerous people among us, you know, your communists or your infiltrators or the ethnicity that gets targeted or whatever. She seems to be in the process of setting up Zaofu to be that. Possibly even metal benders in general, which would be extra fun given that I'm pretty sure she's a metal bender herself. Then at the other extreme, you have the external enemy that you set up, because the thing about this kind of authoritarian state is you need people to continue to be afraid of the consequences of choosing wrong, and one of the best ways to do that is to give this menace, this threat, this internal threat that has infiltrated you, and if you make the wrong choices and trust the wrong people, could destroy you. And this external threat, this evil enemy that is outside and threatening you and has to be fought, and if you don't choose to fight them, then disaster will befall you. Again, it's all making the consequences of everything dire. It's making people afraid of making the wrong choice so that they'll submit to this authority. That's your weekly dose of the politics of Korra. Moving on from this a bit, a lot of the rest of the episode dealt with really boring stuff involving Prince Wu and Mako, or Prince Mu and Wako, if you will. Wow, Korra would be a much more fun show if you just replaced Mako with Wacko from the Animaniacs. That aside, Mako continues to be the boringest character ever boringed. He basically only has two modes, being a dick to his girlfriend and being really boring. Since he does not currently have a girlfriend, which is a good thing for all women everywhere, and frankly, all men, too. Everyone is better off when Mako doesn't have a girlfriend. Intersex people too, just everyone. Everyone and anyone in the universe. People not yet born, people who do not have genders, people who have multiple genders. I don't care, whoever you are better off when Mako doesn't have a girlfriend. And his other mode is being boring, and he is currently in boringest boring mode. It is conceivably possible that his conflict with Bolin over Bolin joining Kuvira, blah blah blah, could be interesting, but honestly, it probably won't be. On the rare occasions it is, it'll be because of Bolin's reaction to it, not boring McBoring hair. And then there's Prince Wu, who is also kind of boring, and a jerk, and kicked a small child out of their chair because he was sad that he's not king. And I guess I'm supposed to feel a little sorry for him, but they spent so much effort in the first episode making me hate him that I don't really care. I really don't see what a good resolution for the Earth Kingdom is, except, I mean, are they just gonna have it become a republic? That is one thing I'm worried about, that the show seems to be really critical of every kind of political anything except, you know, standard issue American democracy, which I'm not saying is a terrible form of government, but you really only have to turn on the news to see it's far from perfect. So I'm not sure why they would vilify everything else and have the happy conclusion be everything becomes more American-like. Especially for a show that is very deliberately set in a universe that contains no white people. Having the conclusion be, we should all adopt European-descended forms of government seems unfortunate. Then again, I don't really think it's the job of animators and children's television writers to, come up with new, better political systems. So, whatever. The point is, I don't really know where they're going with this. I don't really know what's going to happen to the Earth Kingdom. It is possible it will just break up into a bunch of little states. It's possible Wu will take over after having lots of character development. I don't know. I'm not sure it matters, because, more importantly, Toph is firmly, fully back, and she's awesome. I really enjoyed the sequence of Korra failing to understand Rule 1. Never, ever, ever attack a small, super confident elderly person, because they have magical kung fu powers and will destroy you. Every movie, anime, cartoon, everything ever confirms this rule. Also, Terry Pratchett says it's true, and he's always right. No, he's not. But he is more often than a comedy writer has any business being. Regardless, this is a really rambling vlog. Regardless, I really like the Toph and Korra scenes. They play off each other really well because they're honestly two very similar characters. They're kind of abrasive, they are excellent fighters, they are very pragmatic, and think very highly of themselves. Or at least Korra did. She's kind of stopped, which is, of course, her problem. She's lost her confidence, and that's what the metal poison remaining in her represents. She's, as Toph, quite... I'm very happy to see Toph confirm what I was saying last episode, though, honestly, it was fairly obvious. Korra is afraid to be the Avatar anymore, because being the Avatar hurts. So, she's running away. But unlike Aang, who runs away by running away, she runs away by being ill. I can understand why they decided not to go with like a psychosomatic kind of thing, and instead make it that she's quote-unquote holding on to the metal in her body. But either way, it's interesting. And it's interesting that this is basically a physical problem that she needs to go find a spiritual solution for, because of course Korra's always been the one who's incredible at the physical side of things and not so good at the spiritual, which I kind of relate to her on. I find Korra a very difficult character to get a grasp on. I don't always understand what's going on in her head. That is one area that I completely understand, because I am utterly the least spiritual person in the history of anything ever. There are spots where Richard Dawkins, who I despise for a number of reasons, but that's unrelated to this, there are spots where he talks about, feeling part of this greater universe and how, this spiritual side of science, and that's Mr. Atheist, hard-nosed atheist. And I think he's being way too spiritual. I don't get it. I seriously just zero spiritual anything whatsoever. I am pretty sure that, I just don't have that capacity in any way, shape, or form, and I don't miss it. The only thing I can compare it to is, the way asexual people talk about sex. That's the way I am with spiritual stuff. I just zero interest in it whatsoever. I get that it's a big deal for everyone else, but it's just whatever. Anyway, so I kind of relate to Korra on not really getting that side of thing, though obviously it's a bit different for her because for her, spirits are things that she can run around and, like, follow now. So I'm interested to see what happens when she goes and talks to the spirit. Anything else of interest going on in this episode? Oh, right, the ending. So 2 things happen at the end of this episode. One is that Tenzin sends out his children on a reconnaissance mission to find and bring back Korra. So I guess it's a retrieval mission. I'm looking forward to that because Janora is the best and Milo is kind of funny, so it's interesting to see what he's like a little bit older. And they have another sister who exists, I guess. She hasn't really ever done much. So, be nice if she got some development, and maybe I might be able to remember her name then. Actually, that brings up a good question. Where the heck is Kai? He's vanished. So has Asami. I really hope they're not shacking up or something. I am sure that ship exists. I'm not going to go looking for it because, dear God, that's terrifying. But I'm really missing Asami right now. I really wish she was in this episode, and I'm sure she's going to come back in later episodes. I just, anytime Asami is not on screen, you should be asking, where is Asami? Because Asami is the best character. I know I have said that about other people, and admittedly, it is really hard for anyone else to be the best character in a show that has TOPH in it. But of, Korra characters, because Toph is an Avatar The Last Airbender character, not a Korra character, even if she shows up in Korra. Of Korra characters, Asami is easily and far and away the best. So, really looking forward to seeing her show up again. Really enjoying Toph. I hope we get a lot more of her. I hope this wasn't I'm sure it wasn't, but I really hope this wasn't her only part in the story. Because I'm really loving, her voice and her mannerisms and the way it just feels exactly right. This is what Toph would be like as an old lady. I am now quite sure, although I love it, I am quite sure my theory that she was in some way, shape, or form involved in the formation of the Red Lotus is wrong. It seems like she really did become a cop, which still seems so wildly out of character for her, but I don't know, maybe she just goes totally off character when she's off screen. Now that she's back on screen, she's acting like Toph again? Whatever. On the other hand, she is kind of a bully who likes picking on people, but also likes feeling that she's one of the good guys. That's basically what a cop is. So, I guess. Anyway, having those 3 look for Korra, I'm looking forward to shenanigans with those 3. And I am really interested in what's going on with Varric and that spirit mine. And by interested, I mean terrified. Because it looks to me like they are generating energy from it. Which, if true, well, it's disturbing. The less scary possibility I'm imagining as a result of this is, well, the Earth Kingdom doesn't really have a whole lot of lightning benders for obvious reasons. So they're going to need a new way to generate energy. So I'm deeply concerned that their solution is going to be sucking it out of the spirits, which is terrifying and also lends itself really well to Holocaust metaphors, because you can have them rounding up spirits and herding them into camps and putting them into machines and doing experiments on them. And so I can see the show going that route. I mean, they have not shied away from some really horrifying stuff in Avatar The Last Airbender. Korra has actually been a little more hands-off about that kind of thing. So, I mean, maybe they'll do it. On the other hand, I could also see them weaponizing it. Attacking cities with spirit vines or something. I could see it go, so that's also a possibility. Either way is kind of terrifying, Varric is easily, I know I said I liked Kuvira a lot as a villain, but honestly, Varric is the most interesting villain in the show because he's never the main villain, and I don't think he will be. I think Kuvira is the main villain of the season, but he's often villainous, even if he's not, the primary antagonist. He's an evil bastard, and he's also really charismatic and entertaining, and I like characters like that. Zealous from the Slayers remains one of my favorite anime characters of all time. I like a character who is villainous, yet also very fun. Not like in the sense of, I would be friends with this person in real life. I mean, like in the sense of, this is an interesting and entertaining character to watch because they are not real. In real life, Varric would be a terrifying monster. As a character in a show, he's entertaining and interesting. So, really looking forward. I'm actually going to go and watch the next episode right now because I'm behind on vlogs. So I'm going to go right now, watch it, and then come right back and record. So, see you all in a few minutes, my time, depending on when I post these and whether you're a Patreon backer or whatever. Just watching it on YouTube when it eventually hits there. You'll either see this in hours or days or a week or something. I don't really know. I can't plan ahead. So this has been a super rambly vlog about The Legend of Korra. Perhaps I will be more focused next episode. I wouldn't bet on it. See ya!